Hi everyone, أنا أميرة رجب, an environmental associate at the Carbon. النهارده we'll be discussing the topic of climate action and net zero goals. We'll explore the importance of achieving net zero carbon emissions. We'll examine various strategies to reduce carbon footprint. And additionally, we'll take a look at some high-profile commitments towards net zero. So let's dive in. So why net zero initially? This is not recent. The world has been focusing on neutralizing and balancing carbon emissions. So we've been seeing and experiencing temperature rise significantly over the years, and the data actually shows how this drastic increase in temperature is directly linked to the increase in carbon dioxide emissions from human activities. So how do we measure an increase? How do we measure the increase in temperature? We have a baseline which is a pre-industrial era, what before the industrial revolution. And this period is used as a baseline because it represents climate conditions before human activities actually started affecting the atmosphere with emissions. So by comparing a temperature to the baseline, we can measure how much warming has occurred and set scenarios and targets to actually reduce our emissions and stop the increase in temperature. So the global average temperature now is at 1.2 degrees, which is 1.2 degrees higher than the pre-industrial era, our baseline. While it might not seem like a lot, we're already experiencing the effects بتاعتها on the climate, like erratic weather, drastic weather patterns, زي heat waves, floods, severe storms, and some other climate impacts that we've seen over the years. Initially, the Paris Agreement of 2015 recognized the limit warming to 2 degrees. We should not surpass or نعدي ال 2 degree limit. However, since then, it's becoming clear in 1.5 degree is the new threshold, and it's crucial in order to avoid the worst impact of climate change. So let's explore what's the difference, how the effects on the climate change from 1.5 degree to 2 degrees. So here, this is an example from the IPCC special report of global warming of 1.5 degree scenario. Here we can see a comparison between 1.5 degree with 2 degree for different climate impacts. For example, عندنا هنا severe heat at least once every 5 years. We can see from the 1.5 degree to 2 degree, there's 2.6 times more likely to happen every 5 years. We have, for example, another climate impact, which is الديكلاين في الشعب المرجانية اللي موجودة في البحر. At the 1.5 degree scenario, احنا هتكون من 70% ل 90% decrease. But at the 2 degrees, it's 99% decrease or decline in الشعب المرجانية, which is up to 29% worse. The report also covers several and other impacts. So in order to keep the global warming potential under 1.5 degrees, we need to hit the net zero emissions by 2050. Which is crucial, and we should not miss this target, because if we delay actions and if we continue in the same activities and emit GHGs at the same rate and level that we're doing now, it will lead even to higher temperatures, more impacts of climate change that would become even more extreme, more challenging to manage. So, in simple terms, what is net zero? Net zero is the overall balance between GHG emissions caused or produced and the GHG emissions removed from the atmosphere. So this is our current state. We have our GHG emissions is much higher than the amount of CO2 removed from the atmosphere, resulting in this is our net GHG that it's trapped in our atmosphere. So to stop global warming, we need to reach this balance between the emissions and the removers or carbon dioxide. Okay. So cutting down emissions itself, yes, it does help the increase of GHGs in the air, which will help keep the earth from getting too hot. But just cutting emissions is not enough, and there is already a lot of gases in the air from previous activities and from previous years. The Earth's climate will not cool down right away. This is where it's crucial that we balanced out GHG emissions and to balance out the emissions that already are in the atmosphere. So we'll have a quick overview of the net zero overall benefits. So first off, it will have a positive impact on the climate. As addressed before, we'll have less drastic and less extreme climate events as heat waves, floods, and storms. We'll have an increased energy security and resilience, meaning that increasing, working toward net zero, we will need to try and go for sustainable and decarbonized solutions as switching to renewable energy, which will increase in security that we don't need to depend on fossil fuels for energy usage and for industrial operations. For example, it will protect the environment and natural resources as severe climate effects drastically impacts, for example, crops, forests, agriculture, which natural resources needed, and operational benefits, economic growth by creating more jobs and different sectors and industries and new markets as renewable energy. Okay. So measuring the CO2 emissions is the initial first step in reducing the carbon footprint, which we previously underwent training on this measurement step. This helps identify where our emissions, where is the hotspot of our operations, of the company, organization. Then the next step is you can set clear and measurable reduction targets to guide your organization toward greater environmental responsibility. And finally, with targets in place, we can implement reduction actions to achieve goals effectively, which is what we will cover now. So according to the IPCC, about 2/3 of GHG emissions come from energy sector, making energy use a key focus in reducing emissions. So for reducing energy use, some of the actions is purchasing more efficient equipment, switching from older energy consuming, for example, equipment to newer models that use less power. We have, for example, to maintain energy efficiency procedures, let's say using occupancy sensors, so that lights would turn off automatically when rooms are not in use to reduce the energy consumption. Also, for example, utilizing renewable energy sources, definitely installing solar panels on the roof of a building or from different clean energy. and adopt electrification measures, for example, replacing natural gas-powered heating system with electrical heat pumps. So according to the International Renewable Energy Agency, the electrification powered by renewable energy, both actions is essential for decarbonizing key sectors like the transport, buildings, and industries, and this approach is recognized as the major solution with renewable electricity. For example, for business travel, some of the actions is plan efficient routes to reduce the fuel consumption, switching to hybrid or electric company vehicles, utilizing public transport, allowing employees to work from home. For fugitive emissions, some of the actions is to utilize or to use leak detection technologies to just pinpoint and figure out sources of refrigerant emissions or leakage to allow time for maintenance before having too much leakage of refrigerant, switching to low global warming potential refrigerants like using natural refrigerants, for instance. And finally, it's important to reduce the company's carbon footprint is to rethink the suppliers use, having or selecting sustainable suppliers is an effective method. So choose suppliers that measure their carbon emissions. Look for companies or your suppliers that have ISO 14001 certification, which is an accreditation that demonstrates in a supplier is measuring and improving their environmental impact. So overall, it's essential to recognize that each organization employs unique measures tailored to their sector-specific emission sources in order to achieve their sustainability goals. That's why it's important to accurately measure, then set precise reduction targets. These are crucial steps to decrease the organization's carbon footprint. As previously mentioned, carbon removal has a key role in reaching net zero emissions. So two of the widely known methods are trees and forests. Plants themselves naturally remove carbon dioxide from the air, and trees are specifically good at storing CO2 removed from the atmosphere. So some of the actions are reforestation, which is planting new forests where they have originally been damaged, or restocking, which is increasing the number of trees to areas where forests have reduced or thinned out due to diseases or other disruptions. Urban reforestation, which is planting more trees in cities. The other method is direct air capture. This technology is simply removing carbon dioxide directly from the air, and they get stored under the ground. Other additional methods of carbon removal are viable options. However, لسه في مراحلها الأولى وبتحتاج it needs extensive research to become a feasible solution. So let's take a look at some high-profile commitments and case studies of organizations. For example, we have Apple. The company plans to bring its entire carbon footprint to net zero 20 years sooner than the IPCC targets. These are some of their efforts. For example, low carbon product design. All their products last year were made with recycled content. For example, they considered the use stage of their products and designed for it, resulting in reducing the average energy needed for product use by 73%. For expanding energy efficiency, they invested in any energy efficiency upgrades to to over 6.4 million square feet of new and existing buildings, lowering electricity needs by nearly 1/5 and saving the company 27 million. Additionally, for renewable energy, they have commitments from over 70 suppliers, so they consider their supplier relation. They have commitments from 70% of their suppliers to use 100% renewable energies for Apple production, which, when completed, will avoid over 14.3 metric tons of CO2 equivalent annually. Let's take a look at the process and material innovations. They are tackling emissions through technological improvement, supporting the development of the first ever direct carbon-free aluminum process through investments and collaboration with their suppliers. Through these partnerships, Apple reduced emissions from gases by more than 242,000 tons. And lastly, for carbon removal, Apple is investing in forests and other nature-based solutions around the world to remove carbon from the atmosphere. And throughout its work with the Conservation Fund, the World's Wildlife Fund and Conservation International, the company has protected and improved the management of over 1 million acres of forests and natural climate solutions. This is another high-profile commitment, which is Nestle, which is aiming for net zero by 2050. So some of their actions are switching their global car fleet to lower emission options, using 100% certified sustainable palm oil, sourcing 100% renewable electricity in all their production sites. 100% of their packaging is designed to be recycled or reusable, planting 200 million trees, considering the removal importance in order to achieve net zero, and finally cut the use of virgin plastic in their packaging by 1/3. That will be all for today. Thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation provided valuable insights. If you have any question or need any further information, feel free to reach out.